Brodes Media.
And I feel that there is a big overreaction so far to what has been done. And I understand that Odubel Herrera is not the most popular individual in the world. But right now, and I get it, the Phillies haven't been good. The Phillies have been disappointing. The Phillies have come up small. But there was a previous regime with Matt Klentak, with Andy McPhail. That is not Dave Dombrowski. Dave Dombrowski has won a championship in Boston. Dave Dombrowski has built the Detroit Tigers from nothing to a sustained success version of the Tigers throughout his tenure. The reason why you're forced to play Odubel Herrera, trust me, I'm sure he did his research and he looked around the league and he tried to figure out what he could do. But when Adam Hazley sucks, when Mickey Moniak sucks, when Scott Kingery sucks, when all of your past draft picks blow, this is a snowball effect from the disaster that was before Dave Dombrowski was able to put his fingerprints on this team. We understood last season that this was going to be a very difficult problem to fix. The organization as a whole had a major problem. They had systemic issues. Dave Dombrowski had to go all the way through single-A baseball, rookie baseball, and fix the entire system. As you bring in these people and you're supposed to change everything involved in your organization. It doesn't happen overnight. And we also knew that there was a lot of issues with the team. Well, Didi didn't play well and Alec Boehm wasn't very strong and you're losing Andrew McCutchen and you don't know what's happening in center field and you have to rebuild your entire bullpen. So within making moves in the offseason, if you're Dave Dombrowski, you understand that some of the moves won't be the best in the market. You'll grab an average guy at one position. You'll grab just a guy in a certain position. But then you sign a Nick Castallenos. You sign a Kyle Schwarber. If the Odubel Herrera signing happened after Kris Bryant, nobody feels this way. You have to see the 5 moves as a collective group before you make an assessment on what the deal is or what the offseason was like. You can't say, oh, Odubel, I have no idea what he's doing. I think it's kind of pretty clear on what the Phillies are doing right now. And he's been open. Dave Dombrowski spoke to the media, and he's been very vocal and very honest on where a lot of these players are. Well, Bryson Stott and Didi Gregorius are going to be fighting for shortstop. Alec Boehm has to rework his offensive game and his defensive game, and he needs to be a way better baseball player. And it starts at the end of last season. As soon as they started hitting that next page and turn page, it started then. They've been very open. We're trying to spend to go get a big fish. We're working on bringing in a big bat. We need a big bat in the middle of the lineup to help out Bryce Harper. We need something juicy for Rhys Hoskins, Bryce, for JT, for that collective line. We need something big. So the mindset is to go snag that. You saw all sorts of reports based off of the relationship from the Detroit Tigers with Nick Castellanos and Dave Dombrowski. So we know that. And with that said, the platoon, I don't know what they're doing with the platoon. They're doing a platoon in center field because clearly that market isn't as sexy as we would like it. Now, I'm not telling you I love Odubel Herrera. I'm not telling you that he's a very smart baseball player. I'm not telling you that I love Matt Vierling. But I do understand that you can't fix every single problem that you had from last offseason to this offseason. There were too many. And with that said, if you fix 4 of the 7, if you fix something along those lines, 5 of 7, I'm just spitballing numbers, but that's how you have to look at it because you have false expectations to say that Dave Dombrowski has to apply every player that's best at that position that they need help in. He has to get the best in every single one. Steve Cohen's doing it. The entire league is afraid that Steve Cohen's going to be spending too much money. John Middleton spends enough money. He spends at the top of baseball. He spends enough money. The problem is the people who were in charge in the previous times were spending their money the wrong way. It's not John Middleton's fault that he's not opening up his checkbook enough for anybody. No, he damn sure is. And he's spending just as much. You can't have Steve Cohen be the bar. Every single owner in the sport throughout these negotiations and figuring out the CBT and everything through this damn lockout that we just witnessed, we're afraid of what Steve Cohen was going to do and how much. You can't have that. But he's such an outlier. That's like talking about Tom Brady and talking about the New England Patriots dynasty and say, I want that. Not that the Mets are a dynasty, but I'm saying it's such an extreme. Nobody relates to that. Nobody does that I can't demand John Middleton be that, because that's not realistic. That's false expectations. And who knows if Steve Cohen's moves are even going to work. Throwing money around right now seems great. And looking at their roster, we do this every single year. The Mets should be better. The Mets should be better. And they never really are. Now, that doesn't mean that eventually they never will be. Maybe they will be one day. But you can't use that as the measuring stick of Steve Cohen. He doesn't make sense, and it doesn't add value to the rest of the league and the reality of how owners spend their money. So John Middleton spends enough. Some of these positions were going to be stopgaps. I find it interesting, and I wanted a Kiermaier. Okay, I'm okay with the Jackie Bradley Jr., someone who's not very good offensively, but gives you a steady glove in center field and can play the position professionally instead of doing this tandem situation that they're doing now. But even with that, okay, even with that type of conversation in the mix, let me be very clear. I find it fascinating that someone like Kiermaier, who hits 240, 245 in that range, people are like, give me that any day of the week. But Odubel Herrera against righties with his OPS 774, right, in a platoon role, not that he's amazing, not that he's great, but you look at a 260 hitter and then specifically look at his numbers against righties, since he's a left-handed bat. Oh, give me Kiermaier. I'd be stoked with Kiermaier. I would like Kiermaier too. But don't you think it's a little hypocritical that you're in love with one guy who can give you 245, 240? You love Jackie Bradley Jr., who can't hit a lick and can't do anything. But then Odubel, who's 774 last year, OPS against righties, all that. No, forget him. And you don't have to like him. You don't have to. I understand the things he did off the field. But if they were willing to play him last year, and I'm looking more as if I'm the Phillies, if you're looking at what the Phillies did last season, which was play Odubel Herrera, why would you think that now all of a sudden this year they wouldn't be okay with it? If they were okay with it last year, they're okay with it this year. And it might have been your best option based off of your circumstances. I'm sure they tried. Dave Dombrowski is a smart mind. And this is why I feel the way that I do. This isn't Matt Klentak, okay? This isn't Andy McPhail. This is not those two idiots running your organization. This guy has been around the block, and he's not dumb. But because the Phillies have struggled so much, you apply that knowledge to the Phillies organization as a whole, no matter who is in place. But Dave Dombrowski's different. And I've come a long way on Dave because I wanted to go younger. I wanted to go differently. But there's been a systemic problem with this franchise that no one was on the same page with the growth of these prospects, with the growth of, moving up in the ranks and finally receiving these players at the MLB level who can play. That's been a problem. We know that. Well, he's diving deep. He's ripping out the layers. It's like flipping a house. Dave Dombrowski is basically in the process of flipping the Phillies' house. And unfortunately, it takes a bit of time to do that. Now, with that said, with the expanded playoffs and fixing a couple issues, they weren't very far off of making the postseason. Now, this is what I heard yesterday, which is hysterical to me. I don't want to be just a wild card team. Fellas. We haven't made the playoffs in how many years? Now, all of a sudden, you wouldn't be satisfied. Last year was amazing. Sweeping the Mets. It wasn't amazing, but it was a joy sweeping the Mets at home. I was on the Fanatic the day after the day as they swept the Mets. People leaving Citizens Bank Park. Everyone was joyous. Everyone was pumped up. Everyone loved it. They took us to the final series of the season. Every year now, they've taken steps in the right direction to squeak into that postseason. You don't just go from out of the playoffs, World Series champion, okay? So even with the improvement that they are going to put on this roster this year based off of last season, you're telling me that all of a sudden you're not satisfied because you don't want to be in a wild card spot? Come on. You got to have fair expectations here. They have been bad. And now you're taking steps and getting better each year and consistently adding to your team where now all of a sudden you're not okay. I heard this too. I don't want 500 baseball. I'm not saying you need 500 baseball, but if they won 88 games this year, which is what? 6 games over 500 if you want to give them 87 wins, 86. Let's say that's what they grab, which is just a couple games over 500. That's a devastating season for some of you out there because you didn't like the Odubel Herrera signing. I'm sorry. I just cannot wrap my head around that rationale at all. You got to be objective here. You're not going to get the slam dunk signing at every single position available. Center field, there wasn't a ton of options after everything went down. So now that you realize that there weren't a ton of options, you platoon there, but then you get a big bat. And then you continue to add bullpen help. Brad Hand is out there. Knebel, we know we already signed. Familia, I'm not telling you I love Familia, but we've seen, Ramon Rosso? We've seen those type of clowns take the mound. It's a 1-year deal for a bullpen pitcher. And the theory behind bullpen pitchers is every single year you don't know what you're going to get. Familia could be good 1 year, bad another year. Good 1 year, bad 2 years. Good 1 year, bad 2 years. It's just bullpen pieces. And you patch it together with legitimate MLB arms of Familia, Knebel, a Brad Hand, if they do end up signing him. Do you not see the difference in that compared to a Rosso and all the other crap they threw out there in these past seasons? Come on. De Los Santos. They weren't far off the playoffs last year with the issues and the holes on their roster. Breathe. That's my message. Breathe. I'm not telling you this team's going to be fantastic. I'm not telling you this team's going to be elite. I'm telling you to relax a little bit and let Dave Dombrowski work because he is a smart mind that has a track record of building franchises. Now, his track record at the end is they blow up and he moves prospects around, but his mentality is clear. He's been extremely honest with everyone publicly about what his plan is. And he's not in the same position now as he was with the Red Sox when his goal was to win a trophy. Right now, it's a lot different than that. You need to compete because you have to maximize Harper, maximize JT, maximize Zach Wheeler, who's going to obviously somewhat start off slow here based off of what we heard yesterday and where his arm is and how he's feeling, even though it's more precautionary than anything else. So you can do both. Because they weren't far off from sneaking in last year. And to act as if that would be a devastating season, come on. Really? I don't know. I said yesterday that I would love for this town to be like the Dodgers, like the Yankees, like the Red Sox, where our Eagles' passion is in the Phillies baseball. Still keeping it 100 with the Eagles, but take that same level and then apply that to Phillies baseball. After seeing the reaction yesterday of what people thought that Dave Dombrowski's got to be fired, I got Dave Dombrowski's got to be fired tweets, all this stuff because of Odubel. The overreaction to him signing is massively too over intense, in my opinion. If they signed Bryant and then signed Odubel, no one would care. No one would care. If they signed Odubel and then they signed Kris Bryant, well, once the Kris Bryant signing happens, or the Kyle Schwarber, the Nick Castallenos, it doesn't matter as much. That's my point. It's just breathe. If they end up flopping and not getting anyone, okay, then we have the right. then we have the ability to scream and be upset that they're clueless and they're losing everyone because it doesn't make much sense. But as for right now, all the big fish that we were excited about are all available. So can we just relax? I think it's fine to just relax.
So let me get this straight, Hunter. If Dave Dombrowski doesn't sign anybody in the next 2 minutes, that he shouldn't be fired? Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, man. I'll tell you what. Look, I understand the background of Odubel and why that would get people upset. I'm not downplaying that. And I'm not telling you have to like Odubel Herrera. But, to understand where we were and how much we were destroying this franchise, now all of a sudden you're supposed to just snap your fingers and have all of it fixed within a couple of days after the lockout. I just want people to breathe. That's all.
Well, you know what the center field fix should be?
What's that?
That would be either Mickey Moniak or Adam Hazley.
Yeah, but they stink.
And this goes back to the big problem with the Phillies is that your sins of the past are affecting you now.
Absolutely.
Your inability to draft and to fill holes from within is killing you. And if you want a center fielder, what are you going to offer a team in return that they're going to value, that they're going to part with that? He really didn't have much choice, in my opinion, to bring Herrera back. I mean, what is out there that they can get? I mean, nothing against Kris Bryant, but I don't know if I'm comfortable with him playing center. Are you?
I would understand if he could play it for you throughout the season, but it's not something that I'm willing to die on and say, I love that option with him out there. Now, look, if they didn't sign Odubel and they weren't going platoon and he was there, I wouldn't have been upset with it, but I'd be cautiously optimistic, I'd say, and I would wonder if it would pan out as smoothly as we would like to. But I see it the same way as you, which is you are very limited. And I find it funny, as much as I'm not the biggest Odubel Herrera fan in the world, there would be some out there more satisfied with someone who who hits 230 but is a good defender, and then you're upset that someone who can give you a little bit more pop and can actually hit. You're not asking Odubel to be your 3-hole hitter anymore. If he's batting 9th and giving you a 7.74 OPS against a right-hander, it really is not that big of a deal. It might actually be okay based off of other people's 9th options or 8th. Well, now the DH is in play, but you get my point. At the bottom of the lineup, it's not as devastating as what it once was when you were relying on him to be a top of the order guy.